Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 59. Chapter 59, The Stupid Woman. The people in the mines were shocked at the woman's actions. Many were also surprised that Jiang Hao had talismans and pills on him. "Why should I give you a spirit-gathering pill?" Jiang Hao asked the woman. Judging from her build, she seemed to be in the late stage of the foundation establishment realm. She was young, which meant she could still advance rapidly. However, she had quite an attitude. Those who were of a lower level of cultivation should know their place. They needed to have respect for the ones who were of higher cultivation level than them, otherwise, they would end up dead. The fact that the woman was demanding something from someone who was of higher cultivation than her meant that she might have been born into a noble family and lacked manners. "He's injured, and I'm injured too. Why is it that I only get a pain-relieving talisman, and he gets a spirit-gathering pill?" asked Ren Shuang haughtily. She assumed that she didn't need to be afraid of Jiang Hao since he was kind enough to give the injured workers talismans and pills. She was the daughter of an elder of the Black Heaven sect. She wasn't inferior to anyone here. Jiang Hao raised his half-moon blade and placed it at her throat. It wasn't unsheathed, but he didn't need to. The threat was clear. "Are you able to mine?" he asked. "I'm injured. I can't work in this condition," said Ren Shuang indignantly. The blade flashed, and blood flowed out of a cut on Ren Shuang's neck. It was only a small cut. She covered her neck. A chill ran down her spine. "I'm going to ask again," said Jiang Hao. "Can you mine or not?" "Yes. Yes, I can." Ren Shuang trembled in fear. The hand that covered the cut on her neck was already tainted by blood. She knew that if she said no, she would be decapitated. "That's great." Jiang Hao retracted his blade and turned to leave. He instructed Wu Jing to drag out the corpse of the beast. After collecting 2 blue bubbles, he picked up the hoe and began to dig. The others followed suit. Ren Shuang covered the cut with her hands and tried her best to stop the bleeding. Jing Ru glanced at Jiang Hao and frowned. It seemed that he was indeed different from what she had imagined. Shang Guanwen lowered his head and continued to dig. No one knew what he was thinking. After what had just happened, everyone seemed to be a little afraid of Jiang Hao. They worked quietly and diligently. Their progress at the end of the day was 30% better than yesterday. Wu Jing was in disbelief. He had never seen the miners work so diligently before. He was shocked by Jiang Hao. It seemed that inner sect disciples were not someone to mess with. Yan Hua smiled. "Junior brother Jiang, you are amazing." "You flatter me, senior sister Yan," said Jiang Hao humbly. "By the way, the 4 people from before? Do they seem suspicious?" she asked. Jiang Hao shook his head. Other than the information he got from the appraisal, he hadn't found anything else. It made him curious. He needed to read the nameless manual and grasp the concepts once more. However, he didn't have time. He could only focus on refining his cultivation for now. 2 days later, Jiang Hao appraised Jing Ru again. The information he got from the ability revealed that she would be able to perfect the location tomorrow. The attackers might then arrive. Tomorrow. It would be dangerous in the mine as well as outside. That day, Jiang Hao opened his interface when he reached home. Cultivation, intermediate stage of Golden Core Realm. Vitality, 70/100, can be cultivated. Cultivation, 75/100, can be cultivated. Divine power, 2/3, cannot be obtained. Even if I find more bubbles tomorrow, it won't be enough. I need at least 2 days to accumulate the attributes. Besides, I need 1 whole night to break through to the next stage. Jiang Hao was silent. There was no other choice. He let out a weary sigh and went out to look for Wu Yu and Wu Yu. As he got near the mine, he observed the people who were strolling around. Some of them were in the early stage of the Golden Core realm. A few were even above that level. He didn't know if the Heavenly Note sect had sensed anything. Jiang Hao wondered if he should just leave the sect. However, if he left, he would be at the mercy of others. The best I can do right now is to avoid the calamity and focus on my cultivation. I have to survive tomorrow. Tomorrow was a big day. If he died tomorrow, all his effort would have been for nothing. Jiang Hao felt that it was a pity he couldn't break through to the late stage of the Golden Core realm when he was this close. He went back to his house. At daybreak, Jiang Hao walked out of his house. He glanced at the spirit herbs growing around his courtyard. When the Black Heaven sect and the others attacked today, this place would be targeted too. He couldn't make any changes now because that would attract suspicions. He wanted to tell someone about the impending attack but didn't know who he should turn to. When he arrived at the mines, Jiang Hao saw Yan Hua. She smiled. She seemed even more happy than usual. Jiang Hao realized that she knew about the attack from the Black Heaven sect. Once the attack began, she would come for him. Junior brother Jiang, don't run around once you enter the mine. If something happens, wait for me, said Yan Hua. Otherwise, you might get injured. Jiang Hao nodded and said nothing more. He led the workers into the mine. Chapter 60. Chapter 60, Don't try to test me. Jiang Hao could feel Yan Hua's gaze on him as he walked into the mine. He couldn't help it. He turned around to check. Yan Hua was staring at him unwaveringly. When she saw him turn around, she smiled brightly. Jiang Hao nodded at her and entered the mine. It unsettled him to live as someone's target. Moreover, Yan Hua had some twisted plans for him. When they reached the depths of the mine, Jiang Hao looked around and found a place that looked sturdy enough. Let's dig here today, he said. No one had any objections. Usually, when they couldn't find anything good in one place, they chose another area. So, it wasn't unusual at all. When everyone was busy digging, Jiang Hao glanced at Situ Jian and the other three. He noticed that they stood a little apart. The four of them had spread out a little. They stood near other captives. One of them was the woman from yesterday. It seemed like she was one of the people the Black Heaven sect was going to rescue. Jiang Hao was a little worried. He didn't care about being targeted by the outside sects because he had no intention of leaving the Heavenly Note sect anytime soon, at least not until he sorted the matter with the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. However, he was worried that the woman would order Situ Jian and the other captives to kill him when the Black Heaven sect attacked. This was too troublesome. He had to worry about Situ Jian and the others, Yan Hua and the attackers. It would be easier for him to expose his cultivation to the Heavenly Note sect instead. It was the beginning of the nightmare. He needed to be careful. Jiang Hao observed Situ Jian and the others to see if they would make a move. He wanted to be ready if that happened. Jiang Hao knew what his next steps would be. He would use the demonic sound slash with the primordial heavenly blade. He wanted to get rid of them all as soon as possible and escape from there. That would be his last resort. He hoped no one would attack him so that he wouldn't have to use such a violent method. Jiang Hao picked up his hoe and got ready to dig. He didn't know when the enemy would attack, but he couldn't just stand around and do nothing. Situ Jian projected his thoughts onto the arrogant Ren Shuang. Junior sister Ren, I am warning you. I am here to rescue you. But if you order me around or dare to act out, I won't hesitate to leave you behind. After that, you'll be trapped here for a lifetime. When I take you away from here, stay quiet. You can do as you please after we're out of here, but until then, your life is in my hands. Don't try to test me. Ren Shuang lowered her head and continued digging. She didn't say a word. She wished there was someone else who was tasked with rescuing her. However, his cultivation was higher than hers, so she couldn't go against him. At noon, Yan Hua looked up at the sky and smiled. Then, she strode towards the mine. No one knew why she was suddenly making her way to the mine. Nobody dared to ask her. In the cave, everyone was taking a break. Sidu Jian and the others were sitting outside. Ren Shuang was also there with them. She lowered her head nervously. She was not the only one. Some of the people in the lifeblood refinement realm were also feeling anxious. Everyone seemed to know that today was the day. Shang Guanwen and the others were much calmer. They had already made their preparations. Inside, Jiang Hao, who was also taking a break, felt the sudden fluctuation in spiritual energy. It was very faint, but it was there. They're here. He held onto his half-moon blade and made his own preparations. An explosion rang outside. The entire cave shook, and some parts of the mine collapsed. Fortunately, Jiang Hao and the others weren't in the line of fire. Jiang Hao got up. He wanted to leave because he knew Yan Hua was coming for him and didn't want to kill her here. He was worried that Sidu Jian and the others would take the opportunity and attack him along with Yan Hua. Sidu Jian was quick. He tore the talisman apart and began to retreat with the others. Fellow disciple Jiang, it seems there is something happening outside. I'm going to go and check, said Sidu Jian as the other disappeared deeper into the mine. Jiang Hao was relieved. This could buy him some time. The tremors stopped. Everyone felt helpless. Wu Jing looked at Sidu Jian and the others. He was angry. These people dared to run wherever they pleased without his permission. He was going to chase after Sidu Jian, but Jiang Hao stopped him. Stay here and watch the miners. I'll take a look outside. Wait for me here. Jiang Hao didn't linger around to see if Wu Jing understood him. He ran outside. Sidu Jian and the others were going to escape from a route that was somewhere at the corner. Jiang Hao had found out the location when he had appraised Baixiu. All he had to do was avoid that path. They couldn't go in or out of the mine. Yan Hua must be on her way. He needed to find other caves and decide whether he wanted to attack head-on or choose a defensive approach. Not long after Jiang Hao left, Yan Hua appeared before Wu Jing. Manager Yan, said Wu Jing in greeting. Yan Hua looked around. Many people were missing from the mine. She didn't care about the others. She was looking for one specific person. Where's Jiang Hao? She asked. Senior brother Jiang went to check what was happening outside. He asked us to wait here, said Wu Jing truthfully. Is that so? Yan Hua smiled. Then you have to wait here. You're not allowed to leave until he comes back. Yes, of course. Wu Jing lowered his head. Her smile scared him. Chapter 61. Chapter 61, Senior Sister Yan, be more careful of people like me in your next life. If Jiang Hao didn't run to the deepest part of the mine, she could find him soon. Yan Hua walked deeper into the mine. She didn't seem worried about losing her way. She walked slowly and with purpose. It got hotter. That was because the deeper part of the mine had lava. It was not an easy walk toward the opening to the outside. Are you trying to escape the mine alone, or did you really make your way there to check? Yan Hua licked her dry lips. She wasn't in a hurry. This was what she enjoyed. She liked to play the game of predator and prey. The more the prey tried to escape, the more fun the hunt would be. It made her feel excited. She took out a small knife from the fold of her clothes. It was used to skin animals or even people. She sighed. I wonder how it will feel when I split his chest open and take out his heart. She laughed softly. I want to see what face he makes. She walked on and came to a cave that was scorching hot. In the middle of the cave was the opening where lava surged. If anyone fell in, they would burn to death. Yan Hua was a little surprised. He runs so fast. She looked around. She saw a path leading away, but she saw no trail of Jiang Hao. It meant he hadn't left this place. Yan Hua smiled as she blocked the saber with her knife. The next moment, she felt a dagger in her neck. She was taken aback. She turned to look behind her. The saber pierced her heart. A knife flashed and cut her hand which held the knife. Her severed hand fell to the ground. She still didn't see Jiang Hao anywhere. Another sword pierced her from the side. Several swords flew at lightning speed and impaled her from all sides. However, Yan Hua didn't look to be in pain. There wasn't even any blood. "Junior brother Jiang, you're really naughty, aren't you?" Yan Hua turned to look behind her. Only her head turned around on her neck. Her body remained as it was. She could finally make out a faint figure. It was Jiang Hao. His heart sank. Yan Hua was harder to kill than he had expected. He had impaled her from every direction and still couldn't find any weak point in her body. Did she turn herself into a puppet too? Jiang Hao wondered. However, his daily appraisal ability had confirmed that this was her real body. Jiang Hao appraised her once again. The panel told him that weak points existed in her body, but they were difficult to find. "Senior Sister Yan, were you looking for me?" She laughed. "When did you figure it out?" She was impressed. "Junior brother Jiang, you are smarter than I expected. It is no wonder you were chosen to take care of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. It's very impressive. How many traitors like you are in the sect?" asked Jiang Hao. He was charging his saber for a head-on attack. He needed a little time. Yan Hua laughed again. "Do you have any last words?" She pulled out her spirit sword. She looked at ease because she knew there was nowhere for Jiang Hao to escape. Jiang Hao didn't plan on escaping. He took out his primordial heavenly blade. Purple energy swirled around the hilt of the saber. "Senior Sister Yan, be more careful of people like me in your next life." He brandished his saber and rushed forward. He used the second form from the 7 forms of Heavenly Blade, Mountain Suppression Technique. A majestic aura surrounded the blade. Yan Hua was stunned. Her calm eyes finally showed some semblance of fear. The primordial Heavenly Blade, Shiu, descended with a force and cut through all obstacles. Ina Hua's head turned blank. Blood and flesh exploded and flew everywhere. Jiang Hao used the saber 2 more times to make sure she was really dead. He was worried that Yan Hua might get up at any moment and attack him again, so he threw the flesh and blood into the lava pit. He collected the stones and debris stained with her blood and threw them into the lava too. Jiang Hao waited for a while to make sure Yan Hua wouldn't crawl out of the pit suddenly. He then began to plan his next steps. "She's dead," he muttered. "She's really dead. I need to find out what is happening outside. If the Heavenly Note sect isn't a match for the attackers, the mine will blow up soon. I need to leave." He looked at the path that led outside. He wanted to go that way, but he was worried he would stumble upon Situ Jian and the others. Jiang Hao waited there near the lava pit. He didn't want to rush out and fight Situ Jian and the others. There was no use fighting against 4 people at the same time. He glanced at the lava pit. He needed to be wary of the people from the Heavenly Sound Sect in the future. Yan Hua had been difficult to kill. He couldn't imagine how much more tough the Saintess in training, Ming Yi, would be. Senior brother Mu Qi had an affair with the Saintess, so he needed to be extra careful of him too. Mu Qi might be used by the Saintess to get to him, and he wouldn't even realize it. The mine shook again. The lava surged up. "I can't wait any longer." Jiang Hao sheathed the primordial heavenly blade and prepared to leave. Just as he took a step forward, he realized that someone had just entered the cave. "The road there is blocked. We have to take this road." Baixiu's voice rang out. Soon, Situ Jian and the others arrived too. They were as equally shocked to see Jiang Hao as he was to see them. Chapter 62. Chapter 62, Why? Jiang Hao sighed inwardly as more and more people followed behind them. This was such a harsh coincidence. He was trying so hard to avoid them, only for them to walk in on him here. The half-moon blade appeared in his hand. He didn't want any conflict. Anyone who could bypass the lawless tower was not as simple as they looked. Shang Guanwen and the others stared at Jiang Hao warily. They hadn't expected to run into Jiang Hao too. For a moment, everyone was too stunned to do anything. Just as Shang Guanwen and Baixiu drew their weapons, Sidu Jian stepped forward with a smile. He stopped them. Fellow disciple Jiang, what a coincidence. We're just going to make our way through that path. We won't interrupt you in whatever you were doing if you allow us to leave quietly. Please do us this one favor. Sidu Jian gestured to the others to walk forward. He was last in line. As everyone walked toward the path, he turned back to look at Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao had no intention to fight all of them. If they just wanted to leave peacefully, he was more than willing to oblige. He didn't want to take any risks. It was better for everyone to leave this place as soon as possible. Besides, he had just fought with Yan Hua and exhausted much of his energy. He wasn't at his best to have another go. Jiang Hao watched the people make their way across the lava pit toward the small path. Thank you, fellow disciple, said Sidu Jian. I'll definitely send you a gift in the future as a token of gratitude. He then turned around and followed the others out. When everyone had left, Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief. If they had made their way here, it meant that there was some fierce fighting going on outside. If the Heavenly Note sect was winning, all of them would be dealt with. However, if the Black Heaven sect had the upper hand, it would be too dangerous for him to go outside. He might be dragged into the fray and then killed. Sidu Jian and the others walked on. Jing Ryu looked troubled. The situation isn't safe for us. What if Jiang Hao sends someone after us? Don't worry. We need to move fast and leave this place as soon as possible. We still have a little time, said Sidu Jian. But the mine has too many supervisors. If Jiang Hao meets one of them, he might come after us, said Jing Ryu. She turned to the others. What do you all think? Ren Shuang wanted to go back and end Jiang Hao before he caused any trouble. However, she didn't say it out loud. She knew that if she did something like that, Sidu Jian would leave her behind. I also think that he is a danger to us all. He is only in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. I can go back and kill him quietly, said Shang Guanwen. I'll come with you. I feel that he shouldn't be left alive, said Jing Ryu. Sidu Jian couldn't stop them. Baixiu didn't say a word. Shang Guanwen and Jing Ryu turned around and made their way back. Sidu Jian sighed. Come on, move your feet. We need to leave as soon as possible. If anyone slacks off, I'll leave you behind. He led the way in quick strides. No one dared to speak against him. Is he really that dangerous? Baixiu projected a message to him. I don't know, said Sidu Jian. But my intuition tells me that we shouldn't make him an enemy, even if he is only in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. I think junior brother Shang Guan feels the same. To ensure our safety, I can't wait for them. Our safest plan is to leave them behind. They can always use the teleportation array and return to us if they're still alive. Baixiu didn't say anything further. The group walked quickly and reached the exit. Sidu Jian projected a message to Ren Shuang that only she could hear. If they don't come back, you'd better be careful what you say to your sect. Your words might cause more destruction than necessary. That's all I want to say. After waiting for a while, Jiang Hao walked past the lava pit. However, just as he was going to leave, he sensed something. A knife was aimed at his neck. It was just too quick. The half-moon blade blocked it. Jiang Hao turned around in a whirl and kicked at his attacker. There were two of them. Without losing any time, Jiang Hao used the first form of the 7 forms of Heavenly Blade, Moon Slaying. The blade glinted silver and he attacked. The impact forced his attacker backward. Jiang Hao finally saw who it was. Shang Guanwen from the Black Heaven sect. Their eyes met. Jiang Hao had already moved past and slashed the blade across his neck. Blood spurted from the fresh wound. Shang Guanwen stared at Jiang Hao in disbelief. The person in front of him wasn't at the Foundation establishment realm. Instead, he was in the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. Shang Guanwen clutched at his neck as he fell to the ground. Jiang Hao saw a woman in the corner trying to make a move. It was Jing Ru from the Wind Lightning sect. She looked shocked and frightened. Jiang Hao's blade shook. It had already locked onto her. Jing Ru had no choice but to accept her fate and fight. Both of them were in the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm, but Jiang Hao suppressed her will with the mountain suppression technique. His half-moon blade slashed down. Jing Ru could not believe it. She had accompanied Shang Guanwen to assist him if needed. However, he died in the blink of an eye despite how strong he was. As the saber descended on her, Jing Ru's mind went blank. Why? That was the last word she heard. Chapter 63. Chapter 63, Unexpected Disaster. Jiang Hao killed them quickly. He then observed his surroundings. He wasn't sure he could handle it if Situ Jian and Baixiu also came out of the shadows to attack him. He had used too much of his energy and didn't know if he could use the first and second forms of the 7 forms of Heavenly Blade again today. Although the fight had been short and quick, it had consumed too much of his spiritual energy. He checked to make sure the 2 people were dead and then threw them into the lava pit. Jiang Hao then made his way toward the small path. He had let the captives go, and they had still attacked him. To eliminate any danger, he wanted to find them and get rid of them all. If it hadn't been for the knowledge he had gained from the Nameless Manual, he might not have sensed Shang Guanwen at all. As expected, Shang Guanwen had been the most dangerous of the bunch. Jiang Hao checked his half-moon blade. It was full of cracks. He needed to buy another saber soon, but he didn't have enough spirit stones to afford a decent one right now. Jiang Hao hesitated. He then followed the path to look for the others. However, he couldn't find any sign of Situ Jian and the rest of the captives. They already left. Jiang Hao was surprised. They didn't wait for Shang Guanwen and Jing Ru. He understood that Situ Jian hadn't sent the 2 after him. Maybe Situ Jian didn't want to be his enemy, after all. Looks like there is no way to get to him now. There was an explosion outside. A sandstorm surged. Jiang Hao hesitated a while before making his way toward the small exit. The mines were not safe anymore. If he was caught in the fray, he would definitely die. Jiang Hao ran toward the exit. When he finally reached the outside of the mine, he could see that he was surrounded by broken rocks and rubble. He turned to look in the direction where the explosions were still going on. There were continuous spells being cast to disintegrate the place. Parts of the mountain cracked, and the earth shook. Jiang Hao was frightened. The spell and the magic he sensed were far too powerful. How strong was the person casting it? He fled. He had just advanced to the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. He ran as quickly as he could and came upon a forest. This was the edge of the sect. Jiang Hao examined his surroundings and decided that this area should be safe for now. He hadn't seen anyone on his way here. He had no idea where Situ Jian and the others had vanished. Jiang Hao finally stopped for a breather. I'll wait and see who wins. If the Heavenly Note sect wins, I'll return to the mine. If not, I'll stay away. There is no reason for me to rush my death. Even if I get punished later for running away, at least I'll be alive. The destruction of the mine didn't mean that the Heavenly Note sect would allow itself to be conquered. The enemy had come for the treasure. They would leave after finding it. They didn't have the army to conquer the whole section. Most of the experts of the Heavenly Note sect were outside fighting the Azure Mountain. That was the reason why the enemy sect had seized the opportunity to storm the mines. Otherwise, they wouldn't stand a chance. There was another explosion nearby. The impact destroyed some trees and bushes. Jiang Hao's armor had protected him from the flying shrapnel. Jiang Hao summoned his saber in a panic. He couldn't stay hidden for long. Ha ha ha, are those what they call the top 10 disciples of the Heavenly Note sect? Pathetic. Was that all they could do? I don't think I want to be part of this stupid game any longer. I'm leaving. Jiang Hao didn't want to get involved in whatever this was. He only wanted to flee. Just as he prepared to run, he heard someone call him. Junior brother, wait. The rough voice carried the kind of authority that one couldn't disobey. The two people stared at him. This was a disaster. A chill ran down Jiang Hao's spine. The two people were far stronger than him. He sensed that they were beyond the Golden Core realm. Fighting them would be suicidal. He then turned to the one who had stopped him. A few paces away stood a white-robed man in the middle of a magic array. There was a lot of blood on his robe. The other person looked buff and sturdy. He looked strong but was trapped by strange runes. The distraction had given him a chance to break free from the runes holding him. He was in the Heavenly Note sect's uniform. That meant the person in the bloody white robe was from the Black Heaven sect. Junior brother, hurry and help me stop him, shouted Manlong. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly. He didn't want to get involved in the fight, but he couldn't ignore a senior's plea for help when both of them belonged to the same sect. He would be considered a traitor if he didn't help. Little fellow, I advise you not to interfere. Xian Yuantai stared at him icily. Jiang Hao decided to put up an act. He took out the 10,000 sword talisman and threw it at the intruder. That might not even be enough to prevent him from teleporting away. Chapter 64. Chapter 64, No Barrier for Protection. Jiang Hao had never intended to get involved. However, he happened to be nearby and couldn't refuse to help a fellow disciple from the same section. If only he had seen them beforehand, he would have gone the other way. He had no choice but to put up an act to show his fellow disciple that he was doing his best. He threw the 10,000 sword talisman. That was all he was willing to do. The enemy could easily block that attack and leave. Everyone assumed that he was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment stage, so just trying to help was worthy of praise. Jiang Hao activated the 10,000 sword talisman. The enemy had already activated the magic array. His talisman wouldn't hinder the enemy's magic. Jiang Hao wanted him gone more than anybody else. Jiang Hao thought that by the time the 10,000 swords even reached the magic array, the enemy would have long disappeared. However, the sword stabbed into the array and interrupted the enemy. One of the swords even stabbed Xian Yuantai in the thigh. Xian Yuantai turned to Jiang Hao with contempt in his eyes. Jiang Hao was speechless. Seriously, thought Jiang Hao. It's an important array which could help you escape and yet you didn't even put a barrier for protection. The interface blinked and informed him that he had obtained an aggro bubble. Aggro +1. Jiang Hao was preparing to attack. He didn't want the enemy to annihilate him in his anger. Manlong had completely broken free from the runes. He charged at Xian Yuantai and slammed him to the ground with one hand. Tisk, is that all you have? Xian Yuantai stared coldly at the Manlong. Do you think you've finally caught me? Try being this insufferable when you are sent to the Lawless Tower, said Manlong. He turned to Jiang Hao. I'm Manlong, a disciple from the Flowing Waterfall. What's your name, junior brother? Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts, said Jiang Hao politely. All right, said Manlong. Thank you for your help. I'll be sure to credit this to you. However, even if I don't, I hope you can understand. I have worked hard to subdue this piece of sh*t. Man Long laughed. Of course, senior brother Man Long, said Jiang Hao. I barely did anything. It was all your effort. I just happened to be passing by. Jiang Hao didn't really care for any sort of credit right now. Man Long chuckled. You seem wise. However, if I get a reward, I'll be sure to direct the remaining resources to you. I'll remember your help. Man Long looked around. You should wait here until tomorrow. The matter with the mine should be resolved by then. Don't loiter around. It's dangerous. He then left with the defeated enemy. Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief when the two people left. He didn't really care about credit and recognition. He had helped Man Long in capturing an important disciple of the Black Heaven sect. The more people knew about that, the more he would be targeted. He had already provoked a lot of people. He didn't want to add the Black Heaven sect to the list. It would be difficult to clear his name in the future. He couldn't live like a runaway all his life. He retreated to the depths of the forest. Although Man Long had said it was safer here, he didn't quite believe it. However, he had no choice but to wait it out. The problem in the mines might be resolved soon. Jiang Hao sat cross-legged under a tree. He placed his primordial heavenly blade on his lap. He was refining and accumulating energy in the saber. If anyone came close, he would need to use the saber to attack. If he had enough energy accumulated in the saber, it would work in his favor. He sat there the entire day. The next morning, the area around the mines was quiet. However, he waited till evening to make his way back to the mines. The situation seemed to have been resolved. It looks like everything is fine now. I can't hear any explosions. The mines looked intact, which meant that the Black Heaven sect had failed. Jiang Hao walked all the way to the little exit from where he had fled the day before. He found Wu Jing and the other miners where he had left them. They sat cross-legged on the ground, looking scared. Some of them had been injured because of the explosion. It had been impossible for them to get out. They weren't stupid. They knew that they would drop dead the minute they stepped out, so they had chosen to wait inside. They were lost and frightened. Jiang Hao had told them to wait here and then disappeared. They felt that their supervisor had abandoned them. Senior brother Jiang, you're back, said Wu Jing. The others turned to look. Their faces brightened. Even though previous inner sect disciples had treated them very badly as their supervisors, they were happy to see Jiang Hao. They felt that Jiang Hao was different. He was kinder. Jiang Hao nodded and acknowledged them. He distributed some pain-relieving talismans to the ones injured. He asked Wu Jing if he was all right. Wu Jing was happy to see him. He told Jiang Hao that Yan Hua was looking for him. Jiang Hao stayed quiet. A few miners had run away when the commotion started. The rest had stayed put till someone came to rescue them. I found a way out, said Jiang Hao. Follow me. He led the miners through the small path past the lava pit. They met Lu Xingchen and some other disciples who were there to rescue the miners. It's good to see you, junior brother Jiang. I have some things I need to talk to you about. Lu Xingchen was glad to see that Jiang Hao was okay. Chapter 65, Chapter 65, Making a Great Contribution. Chapter 65, Making a Great Contribution. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The miners were escorted out by Lu Xingchen's group. Jiang Hao followed Lu Xingchen out to the edge of the mine. The people of the law enforcement hall were searching the mine to find the intruders. Many people from the other sect infiltrated the mine, but Elder Beizi trapped them in time. Some of the intruders are dead, some escaped, and others were captured. A portion of the mine has been destroyed, blown up. The intruders likely found what they came for. Lu Xingchen looked solemn as he gazed down at the pit. There is nothing we can do about that right now. Overall, we have won this fight and the situation is under control. I didn't know about any of this before. Otherwise, I would have come to warn you. He looked at Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao felt a little emotional. He didn't look at Lu Xingchen. He looked down into the pit. There was some power in there. It seemed that the Heavenly Note sect had already made preparations. Otherwise, the entire mine might have been destroyed. He was curious. Was there really a treasure in this mine? How had the Black Heaven sect found out about it? Jiang Hao had a nagging feeling that the Heavenly Note sect's mine was not as simple as it appeared to be. There was the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower too. Jiang Hao thanked Lu Xingchen for looking out for him. He asked him if it was true that a treasure was hidden in the mine. I also heard that there is some kind of treasure hidden in the mine, but I don't know if that's true. If it was true, wouldn't the elders take it away to some other secure place? Will they just leave it in the open for it to be snatched? I feel like the rumor was spread deliberately to lure the traders to the mine. Our Heavenly Note sect is not really that simple. Lu Xingchen smiled. Jiang Hao nodded. That Demoness knew about this. Even someone as powerful as her hadn't tried to snatch the treasure away. No one knew if the treasure truly existed in the mines. People would repeatedly try to verify it anyway. Was the Black Heaven sect that stupid, though? Would they send people for the treasure without even making sure if it actually existed? Maybe the Black Heaven sect didn't really care for the treasure. The mines need to be made safe. Junior brother Jiang, you can probably go back now, said Lu Xingchen. Right now? Jiang Hao was surprised. But I still need to mine. With Yan Hua dead, he was in much less danger. If he continued to mine persistently, he would soon be able to advance to the late stage of the Golden Core realm. The situation here is chaotic right now, said Lu Xingchen. We need to seal the mines for a while. Everyone will be made to leave. Lu Xingchen looked at Jiang Hao. There is another matter, it's the reason I needed to speak to you privately. Jiang Hao really needed to go back and check on the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. He also needed to buy some good quality tea before that Demoness visited him again. Junior brother Jiang, did you do something recently? Helped capture an enemy, by any chance? I barely did anything, but yes. Sort of. Jiang Hao told Lu Xingchen everything about his encounter with Manlong and the person from the Black Heaven sect. Junior brother Jiang, this isn't a small matter. Manlong is from among the top 10 disciples of the sect, and he has been praising you to the skies. He obtained a new cultivation technique and a magic treasure as a reward. He left you the rest of the resources that he obtained because of your contribution. So that will impact the Law Enforcement Hall and its decisions. Why would that impact the Law Enforcement Hall? Jiang Hao asked in confusion. Junior brother Jiang, do you remember that your name was on the suspect list? Asked Lu Xingchen. Being on the suspect list means that you are under the Law Enforcement Hall's radar. They restrict and monitor your activities. However, because of the contribution you have made, Manlong is speaking up for you. You're still on that list because you're a suspect, but the Law Enforcement Hall hasn't found any evidence against you. With such a huge contribution, you'll no longer be under suspicion. It's highly likely that your name will be removed from the list. Do you know what that means? Jiang Hao's heart sank. The Law Enforcement Hall will no longer restrict my movements, and I can leave the sect at any time. If the people from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion put my name in for the next mission, I'll have no choice but to obey. At that time, no matter what happens outside, it will not be under the jurisdiction of the Law Enforcement Hall. Lu Xingchen nodded. But there is a way to keep your name on the suspect list. He looked at Jiang Hao. Do you know Yan Hua? Senior sister Yan. Jiang Hao was surprised at the abrupt question. Of course, I was working under her in the mines. A talisman flew down and Lu Xingchen caught it. He glanced at it. Do you know that she disappeared? According to our investigation, she is most likely dead. However, it could also be equally true that she faked her death to escape the sect. We have reason to believe that she was a traitor from another sect. At least that was what we got from a traitor we recently captured. We have no evidence for now. How does that relate to me, senior brother Lu? Do you know what she was after? She was looking for me, said Jiang Hao. Is there a witness who can verify that? So, you must have met her before she disappeared. Yes. All right, said Lu Xingchen. Yan Hua is considered a traitor for colluding with other sects and revealing secret. Chapter 66, Chapter 66, Junior Brother, please don't make any great contribution again. Chapter 66, Junior Brother, please don't make any great contribution again. Jiang Hao felt that the whole situation was absurd. Others tried hard not to end up on the law enforcement hall suspects list. Meanwhile, he was here trying to make sure he remained on their suspect list. He had Yan Hua to thank for letting him stay on that list. Senior brother Lu, said Jiang Hao. I wanted to ask something. What kind of punishment does the law enforcement hall allot for offenses? Punishments. Lu Xingchen was confused. Offenders are usually sent to the lawless tower. Other than that? Jiang Hao asked. Most of the time the punishments are handled by the main branches of the sect themselves. The law enforcement hall doesn't interfere with everything unless it has something to do with the sect as a whole, or if the main branches cannot handle it. Only grave offenders are sent to the lawless tower. Will the law enforcement hall punish people for mining without a permit? Jiang Hao asked. No, the law enforcement hall doesn't get involved with small matters like that. Unusually, they handle cases like murders and traitors in the section. Jiang Hao nodded. It seemed he needed to ask the clip master for help once again. Junior brother Jiang, you're in the middle stage of the foundation. Establishment realm, right? Yes. Jiang Hao was puzzled. Is something wrong? Lu Xingchen shook his head. You're in your early 20s. You have the potential of becoming a formidable disciple, but you have been involved in serious cases many times. You were somehow found connected to traitors in one way or another. The cliff of broken hearts might not really be willing to take you in and train you. Also, you are on the suspect list of the law enforcement hall. You'd better be careful, junior brother Jiang. Jiang Hao understood him. When he had informed his cliff master after killing a traitor, his master had kept quiet despite finding out that he was in the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. The cliff master might not have wanted to be involved. However, he was afraid of leaving the sect because too many people wanted him dead. So, being on the suspect list gave him a little protection. It was better to live as an inner disciple. The cliff master definitely wouldn't accept him after being associated with another traitor anyway. It was far too risky to train under a master. I need to leave now. Take care, junior brother Jiang. Please remember, you're still a suspect. Lu Xingchen. Until we find Yan Hua, you might remain as our suspect, no matter how long it takes. Lu Xingchen turned to leave and stopped. Also, please don't make any great contributions that might remove you from the list. Jiang Hao was speechless. I understand. The recommendation and praises from Manlong were really unexpected. He had only used one 10,000 swords talisman hoping it would fail. Who would have thought it would work so well? Oh right, Xian Yuan Tai has been captured, said Lu Xingchen before walking toward the mine. The Black Heaven sect will surely notice you now. Jiang Hao was stumped. He had used one talisman, and his life was now in ruins. He shook his head and left the mine. He couldn't linger here. Jiang Hao hoped that he could somehow convince his teacher to assign him the task of mining. For now, he needed to head back and check on the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. It had been a month since he had been assigned to the mine. He had neglected it long enough. The spirit beast lay down lazily in the courtyard in front of Jiang Hao's house. Its stomach growled while it stared at the tempting flower. The heavenly fragrance Dao flower had a unique smell. It wanted to bite and savor it. It opened its mouth wide and then shrank back. No, no. The master will be back. He'll punish me. It stared at the appetizing flower. But it stuck its tongue out. Just a lick. However, before it could try anything, a saber pressed its tongue down to the ground. The spirit beast was terrified. It struggled but couldn't free its tongue. What's happening? Jiang Hao asked sternly. The spirit beast couldn't respond. It was still struggling to free its tongue. Jiang Hao slowly raised his saber from its tongue. The spirit beast checked to make sure its tongue was fine. Master, I wasn't doing anything. I saw that there was some dust on the leaf, so I was trying to clean it. Do you want to bet that on your life? Asked Jiang Hao. If the spirit beast tried anything stupid with the flower, he would be in trouble, too. No one knew what that woman was capable of. She was a Demoness, after all. If I see your tongue anywhere near that flower, Jiang Hao left it at that. His intention was clear. He walked away and pushed the tip of the half-moon blade into the soil. The blade was full of cracks. It couldn't be used anymore. He needed another saber. This one couldn't withstand the 7 forms of heavenly blade techniques anymore. The spirit beast was frightened. It cowered in a corner. Did anyone come here in the past few days while I was away? Asked Jiang Hao as he walked to the wooden chair. My reputation as a beast is formidable. Who would dare come here and disturb your place, master? The spirit beast jumped onto a chair opposite Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao stared at the sharp-tongued beast. The spirit beast panicked. One person did, it said. Someone called Mingyi came here looking for you. What did she want? Asked Jiang Hao. She just said it was a pity you weren't here, and that she would visit next time. Jiang Hao was deep in thought. Fairy Mingyi from the Heavenly Sound Sect, did she come to find me because of Yan Hua? Jiang Hao got up and left to find Mu Qi and the Cliff Master. He had to inform them that he couldn't go back to the mines for a few days and that he was back to tend the spirit herb garden. At the 100 Flowers Lake, Beizi knelt in front of Hong Yue. She was covered in scars and bruises. Hong Yue was standing by the lake, feeding the fish. Any updates on the Azure Mountains matter? Chapter 67, Chapter 67, Han Ming feels like he can do it again. Chapter 67, Han Ming feels like he can do it again. Beizi was worried about the incident that transpired in the mines. Although she had secured victory, it was still not enough. If the sect master hadn't informed her at the last minute, she wouldn't have been able to capture so many traitors and intruders. The sect would have suffered great losses. Beizi had suspected that the mines would have been the target, but she hadn't paid enough attention. She was so focused on dealing with Azure Mountain that she had neglected the situation in the mines. She had thought that the mines were inside the sect, so she would have enough time to make preparations. The mines were important for the sect. Spirit ores weren't the only things found in the mines of this section. However, the mines were dangerous. The miners were instructed to dig bit by bit before they were allowed to venture deeper to find other treasures. The sect master had let slip the rumor about the special treasure hidden in the mines, because of which they had captured many traitors and intruders. Beizi was nervous. She couldn't see through the sect master's intentions. In the months that we spent fighting the Azure Mountain, it has become apparent that we have the advantage. The Azure Mountain isn't as strong as we thought. They are weaker because of internal disagreements. We plundered a lot of treasures and even obtained Azure Mountain's cultivation technique. Azure Divine Transformation Technique. Beizi laid the treasures on the floor. There were sabers, books, pills, pendants, etc. Hong Yue glanced at them briefly and turned away. She did not care for trinkets. Hong Yue looked at Beizi unwaveringly. Beizi took a deep breath. I found clues about the person who might be behind the Azure Mountain's provocation. This is what I found. Beizi took out a stone slab. It floated toward Hong Yue. The stone tablet was full of strange symbols. "This looks like something that came from overseas," said Bazi. "I think that the one who covets the heavenly fragrance Dao flower is someone foreign." Hong Yue looked at the stone tablet a while longer and then put it away. A book floated toward her. This was a manual for Azure Mountain's cultivation technique, Azure Divine Transformation Technique. She flipped through it briefly and then closed it. "Looks like we've gained quite a lot this time," said Hong Yue. "Let the disciples compete." Those disciples in the Foundation Establishment Realm, Golden Core Realm, and Primordial Spirit Realm can compete for the treasures as a reward. 5 from each of these major realms. As for the rest, exchange them for contribution points. "What kind of treasure should I set as a reward for the Foundation Establishment Realm?" asked Bazi. Hong Yue glanced at the saber and thought for a moment. Then, she shook her head. "You decide that by yourself." She picked up the book. "Is the Azure Mountain destroyed for good?" "Not entirely," said Bazi. "We attacked but were forced to retreat before we could completely occupy them. If we want to exterminate them, we need to mobilize larger forces. Other sects are helping them flee. It'll take a long time to get rid of them." "That's all right," said Hong Yue and threw the book to Bazi. "If Azure Mountain no longer existed, you could use the manual to open a new branch in the sect. Since they are alive, the 12 main branches can compete to win this cultivation technique. This will be coveted by the 12 branches. It means one more option of cultivation technique to choose from." Balsam nodded. SNE couldn't compete because SNE was TNE acting sect master. Only the rest of the 11 branches could compete to own the Azure Divine Transformation Technique. Jiang Hao went to meet the Cliff Master. He had suffered some injuries because of the incident at the mines. It seemed no one had remained unscathed. After that, he went to find Mu Qi and informed him about the incident and how he was sent back. Mu Qi thanked him profusely and offered him many resources and rewards. He was happy to give them away. Jiang Hao bowed and thanked him. Back at the spiritual herbal garden, Jiang Hao met Han Ming. After a few months of fighting, Han Ming's cultivation had strengthened. He was no longer the young and naive youth from before. "Senior brother Jiang," said Han Ming. "How nice to meet you again." "Junior brother Han, it's nice to meet you too." "Still up for a challenge?" asked Jiang Hao. Han Ming chuckled. "Not yet. I still feel that I'm not strong enough. I just needed some spirit herbs, so I came over. I contributed a lot this time and gained a lot of resources to further my cultivation." "Senior brother Jiang, you should also try it. That way, your cultivation will increase faster, and you'll also gain experience." "Junior brother Han, I'm glad to see how strong you've become. Ordinary people can't even compare to you," said Jiang Hao. Han Ming smiled confidently. He bid farewell to Jiang Hao and turned to leave. "Senior brother Jiang, you should also contribute to the fight and advance quickly. Otherwise, I'll catch up soon." Jiang Hao smiled in return. Only he knew how much he was trying to avoid contributing to the fight. If he did anything to help and clear his name, Lu Xingchen definitely wouldn't be able to help him out next time. Chapter 68, Chapter 68, Jiang Hao makes it to the top 10. Chapter 68, Jiang Hao makes it to the top 10. After seeing Han Ming off, Jiang Hao walked around the spirit herb garden. The spirit beast followed him around. "Who is that?" "A true disciple," said Jiang Hao. "His status is higher than mine in the sect, so don't cause any trouble." "True disciple?" It's no wonder he didn't give me a second glance. "Master, you need to work hard to elevate your status around here." Jiang Hao glanced at the spirit beast but didn't respond. He had been in the mine for so long. Jiang Hao knew that the beast was just joking. By now, it knew how to act around others, especially in the section. "Master, why don't you follow me?" Everyone in the underworld knows that I have unlimited potential and will definitely dominate the world in the future. Jiang Hao ignored the beast. The beast was getting arrogant day by day. Jiang Hao only hoped that it wouldn't cause any trouble. He busied himself in the spirit herb garden. He was once again back to collecting a few bubbles a day. Jiang Hao missed mining. It was so easy to get bubbles in the mine. If nothing worked, Jiang Hao had planned to do something that would get him punished and sent back to the mine. However, the mine needed to be made safe first. It would take too long. Even other miners were being assigned jobs in other areas of the section. In the evening, Jiang Hao returned to his house and planned things out. He had received news that the Heavenly Sound Sect had won against the Azure Mountain. They had brought home many treasures. The battle was over. The Heavenly Sound Sect had captured many intruders and traitors. If the captives were lucky, the other sects would come to claim them. If not, they would be doomed to work in the mines forever. Women who were captured might be taken away by the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. Jiang Hao sighed. He couldn't interfere in this matter. He had no status, no resources, and no spirit stones even to buy a saber. How could he help others when he couldn't even help himself? He took out the talisman manual and read it. He needed to earn more spirit stones. Jiang Hao only had 350 spirit stones left. He still needed to buy a good saber and some good quality tea. He opened the talisman making manual. The first on the page was the healing talisman. It was similar to the pain-relieving talisman but much more effective. Few people bought the healing talisman, but there was always someone in need. It was good to have them handy. He would definitely find some customers for it. A healing talisman wasn't as effective as a healing spell, but it was useful in emergencies. For example, if someone was seriously injured and, in a state where they couldn't cast a healing spell, a healing talisman might just buy them some time till they were rescued. Therefore, people in the Foundation Establishment realm and Golden Core realm often kept these talismans handy, especially if they were venturing outside the section. Jiang Hao studied the process of making such a talisman. The paper used to make these was the same as the one used in the 10,000 Swords talismans. The price was half of what a 10,000 Swords talisman would cost. He could only sell it for about 30 spirit stones. It's a pity I didn't make any talismans before the battle with the Azure Mountain, muttered Jiang Hao. Otherwise, I could have earned a lot. The healing talismans would have sold for a lot because people going out to fight would have stocked up on them. Now, there would be fewer people buying it, and they would refuse to pay more than 30 spirit stones for it. Taking a deep breath, Jiang Hao activated the clear and pure heart ability and began to study the process for making healing talismans. At the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Han Ming headed to the Cliff Master, Ku Wuchang's house. He looked excited. He was eager because the Cliff Master had said that all those who had contributed to the fight would be included in the top 10 list depending on how much they had contributed. All those who made it to the list would receive a lot of rewards. Han Ming didn't have a hope of making it into the top 10 disciple list of the sect. However, he was sure he would be in the top 10 when it came to disciples from the Cliff of Broken Hearts. He had participated in the battle from the outset, passed 5 trials, and killed 6 generals. He had made a lot of contributions. Han Ming wasn't the only one present in the Cliff Motter's courtyard. There were 2 other disciples. A senior brother and a senior sister. There were only 9 formidable disciples in the Cliff of Broken Hearts, including him. Han Ming greeted Zhu Wu and Fei Zhu. They waited patiently in the courtyard. Moments later, Mu Qi arrived. He turned to the Cliff Master. Master, the Law Enforcement Hall has sent over the merit list with the rankings. He handed the list to the Cliff Master. Mu Qi then stood and waited with the other disciples. Senior brother Mu, am I in the top 10, whispered Han Ming. Mu Qi chuckled. I didn't get to peek at it, but the Law Enforcement Hall recognizes your contributions, junior brother Han. I'm sure you'll be in the top 10. Han Ming was excited, but he didn't show it. He knew how to exercise self-control, especially among the seniors. If it was someone of lower status than him, then he could do whatever he pleased. Han Ming would show off to Jiang Hao soon. This would work to his advantage in covering for the humiliation he had faced at Jiang Hao's hands in the last fight. Ku Wuchang seemed surprised. The disciples were even more curious now. Mu Qi was the only one who looked calm. It seemed as though he knew the reason for the Cliff Master's reaction. Interesting, 2 of the disciples from the Cliff of Broken Hearts made it to the list of top 10 disciples of the sect, said the Cliff Master. That's good. This means our branch will have more possibility of winning rewards during competitions. Master, who are they? Asked Han Ming eagerly. Zhu Wu and Fei Zhu were also curious. One is Bai Yi. He is ranked 7th, said the Cliff Master. Bai Yi was the first disciple of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. He was very powerful, so it wasn't much of a surprise. What about the other one? Asked Fei Zhu. Jiang Hao. He is ranked 10th. Han Ming was shocked to hear the name. Chapter 69, Chapter 69, Need to Get Rich. Chapter 69, Need to Get Rich. Han Ming's head buzzed when he heard Jiang Hao's name. He couldn't understand how Jiang Hao, who was still in the Foundation establishment realm, could make it into the top 10 disciple list. That didn't make any sense. Only a few hours back, he had bragged about his achievements to Jiang Hao in the Spirit Herb Garden. Han Ming felt embarrassed. His achievements were nothing compared to this. He felt defeated. He had clearly felt that he could surpass Jiang Hao soon, but when would he be able to best Jiang Hao in a fight? The more he recalled Jiang Hao's calm face, the more embarrassed and frustrated he felt. Jiang Hao? Who's that? Zhu Wu asked curiously. I think I heard his name before, said Fei Zhu. He works in the Spirit Herb Garden. I think he is in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Yes. That's him, said Mu Qi. Middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Zhu Wu was in disbelief. How did someone like that make it to the top 10 disciple list from the whole sect? Han Ming perked up at the question. He wanted to know the exact same thing. A few days ago, the mine was under attack. Experts of the Black Heaven Sect and the Thunderstorm Sect led the attack. Manlong from the Flowing Waterfall was engaged in a fight with Xian Yuantai, an expert from the Black Heaven Sect. The attacker cast some runes which bound and rooted Manlong at that moment. Xian Yuantai was casting a teleportation array to escape when Jiang Hao single-handedly stopped him while giving Manlong the chance to break free. It was because of Jiang Hao that Manlong was able to capture Xian Yuantai, said Mu Qi. Xian Yuantai is in the late stage of the primordial spirit realm. Everyone was shocked at that. No one present had the courage to face someone in the late stage of the primordial spirit realm, let alone fight them. They lowered their heads. Han Ming was especially ashamed of himself. He didn't think he could even muster the courage to stay put if he had been in Jiang Hao's place. I recall that his name was in the suspect list of the Law Enforcement Hall. Has his name been cleared this time? Asked Fei Zhu. He was cleared of previous suspicions, but he is somehow connected to the traitor Yan Hua this time. So, the Law Enforcement Hall cannot let him go entirely, said Mu Qi. Mu Qi was also puzzled by this. He didn't know if the Law Enforcement Hall was doing it intentionally. Did they somehow want to protect Jiang Hao, or were they just trying to prevent him from becoming a true disciple? In his opinion, Jiang Hao had already proved himself worthy of being given the title of a true disciple. The only problem was that his talent wasn't anything extraordinary. He was only above average. However, his performance and contribution were enough for the Cliff Master to take Jiang Hao under his wing. He was still a suspect, so that wouldn't happen anytime soon. Ku Wuchang interrupted their discussion. Well, you have all worked very hard. Keep it up. I'm told that the competition between the disciples is going to take place in a few months. 5 winners will be selected from each cultivation realm. There aren't many when you consider the 12 branches in the section. I hope you all can do your very best. They nodded. Han Ming wanted to participate. This was his chance to prove that he was an outstanding disciple. After one night of study, Jiang Hao finally understood how to make healing talismans. For those in the Golden Core realm, the success rate of making such a talisman was 50%. After a few practices, the success rate would at least be 80%. Jiang Hao was confident that he could get this right. Being in a higher level of cultivation indeed had its perk. However, he couldn't sell too many of the talismans. Otherwise, some people might get suspicious. There were some talismans that only those in the Golden Core realm could create. He couldn't sell those yet. He could only sell the talismans that were possible for those in the Foundation Establishment realm. The first 3 talismans of the 6 fine-grade talismans were of the latter type. He needed to make a lot of those 3 types of talismans. He decided to make more of the 10,000 swords talismans. They sold very quickly. These were also considered the most ordinary and were easy to make. Jiang Hao sighed and went out to the courtyard. He looked at the half-moon blade that he had buried in the dirt up to its hilt. It reminded him that he didn't have a saber that he could use. He opened his interface. Name, Jiang Hao. Cultivation, middle stage of Golden Core realm. Lifeblood, 6/100, cannot be cultivated. Cultivation, 10/100, can be cultivated. Jiang Hao sighed. The numbers were pitiful, to say the least. In 2 days, his cultivation and lifeblood had made little to no progress. Well, first things first, muttered Jiang Hao. I need to earn spirit stones. Then, I need to buy a saber and good quality tea. Oh, yeah, I need to save some spirit stones to feed the beast too. The spirit beast needed a lot of spirit stones. I hope senior brother Mu Qi rewards me with spirit stones. He did say he was going to give me resources. Jiang Hao headed straight to the spirit herb garden. The spirit beast jumped up and followed Jiang Hao. It shook its neck to make the collar comfortable. The spirit beast had gained enough intelligence to know what the collar was. The spirit beast had gained enough intelligence to know what the collar was for. However, it had no intention of breaking it and escaping into the wild. It was proud of the collar. The collar set it apart from the wild, uncivilized beasts that roamed around without a purpose. It was proud of the fact that it was a special beast with a master who took care of it. Master, can't I eat people? Asked the spirit beast. Do you find humans delicious? Asked Jiang Hao curiously. The spirit beast nodded. How many people have you eaten before? Asked Jiang Hao. Not even one yet, said the spirit beast. But all great demons eat humans. Everyone knows that I'm a great demon. Jiang Hao stared at the spirit beast. He wondered if he should let it go free because he didn't want it eating human beings in the section. He continued walking toward the spirit herb garden. Well then, I guess I'll have to get rid of you. I don't raise demons. Master, I was just joking, said the spirit beast hurriedly. I'm not a demon. I can be a rabbit. I love carrots anyway. Jiang Hao shook his head. This beast has no shame. He saw Mu Qi in front of the spirit herb garden. Jiang Hao felt nervous and excited. He hoped today was the day when he would be rewarded with spirit stones. Chapter 70, Chapter 70, I want spirit stones. Chapter 70, I want spirit stones. Mu Qi waved at him. Junior brother Jiang, right on time, he said. I came here to ask you what kind of reward you wanted for helping me out. Jiang Hao desperately wanted to say that he needed spirit stones but held himself back. It's up to you, senior brother Mu. Mu Qi chuckled. You shouldn't be so humble, you know. You'll be at a disadvantage. Jiang Hao smiled. He didn't want to cause trouble unnecessarily. He didn't lack resources, except spirit stones. He could always get the bubbles in the spirit herb garden. Well, I got some pills as a reward. Among them is the golden core pill, said Muchi. But I can't give that to you yet because you're still in the foundation establishment realm. So I can give you some spirit stones instead. Will that be okay? Disciples in the lower realm couldn't have pills of the higher realm. Jiang Hao was actually in the golden core realm, so he could accept the pill, but he didn't want to reveal his cultivation. That's perfectly alright, said Jiang Hao. Muchi chuckled. It seems you're in need of spirit stones, he said. Well. Alright. I have another golden morning pill. It isn't particularly expensive, but again, I can't give it to you because of your cultivation level. So, I am going to give you 600 spirit stones instead of the golden core pill and 250 for the golden morning pill. Muchi took out the spirit stones from his pouch, counted them, and handed them to Jiang Hao. Here, a total of 850 spirit stones. Muchi took out a bottle of pills. These are cleansing pills. It can help clear out poison or toxins from your body. These are fairly easy to make. I can give these to you directly. He handed Jiang Hao the bottle of cleansing pills. Jiang Hao had made those pills before. They sold at around 70 to 100 spirit stones each. He had kept some for himself because he was afraid of being poisoned. There is this spiritual sword. I can give this to you directly as well. Jiang Hao hesitated. Senior brother Mu, could you keep the sword and give me spirit stones instead? Muchi laughed. Of course. This spirit sword is decent. It will cost around 1000 spirit stones, I think. I can give you that amount. Muchi took out more spirit stones and handed them to Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao now had 1850 spirit stones. If he added 350 spirit stones that he had on himself, he had a total of 2200 spirit stones. That was a huge sum. He could finally buy a better saber and tea leaves. The primordial heavenly blade was too powerful to be used as an ordinary saber. He admired Muchi. Muchi was a good sport and was also very strong. He even received great rewards for his missions when compared to Jiang Hao. Those in the Foundation establishment realm didn't even receive half as much in reward after missions. Having a higher cultivation level was indeed beneficial. If he didn't already know that Muchi had acquired an inheritance in the mines and that's why he was being this generous, Jiang Hao would have suspected him of being a spy from another section. However, there was still the matter of his affair with the Heavenly Sound Sect's saintess in training. Jiang Hao needed to be careful. In a few months, there will be a competition. Junior brother Jiang, do prepare for it, said Muchi. Jiang Hao was confused. A competition? Yes. You didn't hear about it? The sect was victorious against the Azure Mountain, so they brought home a lot of looted treasures. The sect is going to distribute these treasures as rewards in the competition. Disciples from the Foundation Establishment Realm, Golden Core Realm, and Primordial Spirit Realm are all welcome to participate. The top 5 will get precious treasures as rewards. Jiang Hao didn't respond. He couldn't care less about the competition and didn't really want to participate. You have made great contributions to the mine and to the section. I think you'll be expected to participate in the competition. Usually, the competition would be among 1 or 2 branches, but this time, it's between all 12 branches. Don't worry, though. It'll be a simple competition, and no one would be expected to jump realms. But you can if you're confident enough. Muchi bid him goodbye and left. Jiang Hao sighed wearily. Now, on top of everything, he needed to figure out a way to lose in the competition. His contribution had done him more harm than good so far. First, he was almost removed from the suspect list, which would have been dangerous. And now, a competition. I wonder what the reward is. He asked around out of curiosity. Cheng Zhou had somehow found a list of treasures that were to be assigned as rewards for the competition. For now, only the rewards for the Foundation establishment realm have been decided, said Cheng Zhou. We still don't know what the rewards would be for the other cultivation levels. Here, see for yourself. Cheng Zhou left the list with Jiang Hao and went to play with the spirit beast. There were a total of 5 items. The first was the 9 Suns saber, which was forged from the 9 Suns true fire stone. It was compatible with all cultivation techniques. It also had true fire attacks and was suitable for all cultivators below the return to void realm. Overall, it was a powerful weapon. Jiang Hao knew that the saber was very valuable. If he sold it, it would fetch him a decent price. He wanted it, but he didn't know if it was possible for him to win first place. The second reward was a cultivation technique called the Heavenly Sound spiritual technique. This was used to train one's spiritual energy. The third was a spell technique, the 9 Suns flame. It could draw a sea of fire and cause rapid explosions to injure many enemies at once. It had the power to surpass realms and was terrifyingly efficient. The fourth was a deist robe, which allowed the wearer to float in the air. It also made them impervious to fire and water. It could be used to resist most types of attacks. Jiang Hao didn't really care for the rewards, except the saber. He had the 9 heavenly battle armor for defense, so he didn't care for the robe. The spells and cultivation techniques were useless for him too. He glanced at the 5th reward. Jiang Hao felt that this particular reward was very strange. A seed that contained extraordinary spiritual energy. Carrying it around could increase one's cultivation speed, and it also had the effect of focusing one's mind. Chapter 71, Chapter 71, Why don't you go and check it out? Chapter 71, Why don't you go and check it out? A seed with spiritual energy? What kind of seed is that? Jiang Hao was interested in the seed. If it was a powerful seed, he wanted to obtain it. These treasures were snatched from Azure Mountain, so they wouldn't be something simple. The seed might not be as rare and powerful as the heavenly fragrance Dao flower, but it would still be useful. It could even drop gold bubbles once in a while. Even if it only gave purple bubbles, that would still be great. But even if it wasn't as good, it would be fine if it could drop a gold one. However, he had to appraise it first. If it was worth something, then he needed to come up with a way to win in the competition among others from the Foundation establishment realm. How do I make myself less conspicuous in the competition? Jiang Hao thought about it. He could make more talismans and fight with it instead. The power of a 10,000 swords talisman was average. If he could create some 100,000 swords talisman, it could inflict significant damage to anyone in the Foundation establishment realm. 100,000 swords talisman was strong, but it wouldn't attract any unnecessary suspicion because it wasn't something unattainable for someone from the Foundation establishment realm. It required materials similar to a healing talisman. He could make them tonight. Jiang Hao headed to the market after that and set up his stall. There weren't many people. The market was almost empty except for a few disciples. Junior brother Jiang, it has been a long time since I've seen you here. Leng Tian walked over to him. Senior sister Leng, I hope you've been well, said Jiang Hao politely. He noticed that Leng Tian was in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Her cultivation wasn't refined yet, which meant that she must have advanced just recently. Healing talismans. You can make those too. Leng Tian looked at the talismans laid out in front of her. How much is this one? 30 spirit stones, said Jiang Hao. I want 5 of these, said Leng Tian. Oh, do you have any 100,000 swords talisman? She handed him 150 spirit stones. The production cost had been 10 spirit stones to make one healing talisman. So, Jiang Hao earned a profit of 100 spirit stones. I don't have any 100,000 swords talisman right now, said Jiang Hao. The truth was that he wouldn't sell them even if he had them. He wanted to keep them for himself for the competition. Senior Sister Leng, why are there so few people today? Asked Jiang Hao. You don't know, said Leng Tian. The sect has opened a temporary market. Many people go there these days. Our sect has brought home many treasures from the fight. They're selling most of them. You should go and check it out. Jiang Hao nodded and thanked her. He wanted to check out this new market. He also had to buy some good quality tea as soon as possible. Leng Tian looked around and then leaned forward. I heard that you managed to make it to the top 10. If you do well in the competition, you can choose among the rewards. I heard that there is a rare treasure called the Heavenly Recovery Pill which can help you break through the bottleneck of the peak stage of the Foundation Establishment realm to advance to the Golden Core realm. Heavenly Recovery Pill? Asked Jiang Hao. How much is that worth? Leng Tian thought for a while. I'm not sure, it's useless for those in the Golden Core realm, but priceless for those in the peak stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. I think I saw it being sold for 3,000 spirit stones once. Someone else was selling it for 10,000 spirit stones. 10,000. After bidding farewell to Leng Tian, Jiang Hao went to the Snow Lotus Pavilion to buy some decent tea leaves. The first person he asked for was Tian Qinghong. 10,000 spirit stones for 5 grams. 10,000. Jiang Hao was shocked. This was a daylight robbery. How could tea be so expensive? What about spring in September tea? Jiang Hao asked again. She just extended a finger to point at another pack of tea. In the end, he bought azure red tea, which cost around 100 spirit stones for 5 grams. He spent 500 on it. Now he only had 1,850 spirit stones left. He spent 200 of those to buy some talisman-making materials. Jiang Hao then returned to his house. He began to make the 100,000 swords talisman. 6 days passed by in a flash. He spent most of his time in the spirit herb garden. He only found a handful of blue bubbles. However, he was still glad for the small progress he had made. In these 6 days, he was able to make a total of 30 talismans. 20 of those were the 100,000 swords talismans, and 10 were healing talismans. He wanted to sell 5 of the healing talismans and kept the rest for himself. Jiang Hao wanted to go to the new market that had opened. He told the spirit beast to look after the house while he prepared to visit the market. Master, could you get me a new collar? A stronger one, maybe this one is becoming tighter. Jiang Hao dropped it at home and he left. The spirit beast was about to advance in its cultivation level and would soon need a new collar. He walked around the market and asked for the price of healing talismans in some of the stalls. They were being sold for 50 spirit stones each. Chapter 72, Chapter 72, Daylight Robbery. Chapter 72, Daylight Robbery. Jiang Hao found a spot in the corner and sold 5 healing talismans. He also sold some of the 10,000 swords talismans that he had left. This was a good time to sell talismans. After a few days, the demand would be less, and people might not really pay a good price for the talismans. Jiang Hao now had a total of 1,900 spirit stones. That should be enough to buy a decent saber. He sighed. It would be so great if he could find something that could be used both for the Foundation Establishment realm and the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao saw many Dharma treasures in some of the stalls. There were decent sabers for sale too. They were all ordinary, though. Occasionally, he found a good saber, but it was ridiculously expensive. 1,900 spirit stones were not enough. Moreover, some merchants were very dishonest. They set exorbitant prices for some of the treasures and sabers when they weren't even that great. He saw the azure red tea in one of the stalls. It was being sold for 100 spirit stones for 5 grams. However, the quality looked worse than the one he had bought. Jiang Hao didn't want to buy it even if it was the same price. He was scared of that Demoness. He didn't dare offer her a fake tea. I don't even know her name. I didn't try to appraise her last time. When he met her for the first time, he was still in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm. He was now in the intermediate stage of the golden core realm. Maybe he was strong enough to find out more about her. Jiang Hao was looking forward to her visit for the first time in his life. If he could find something about her, it would mean that he was stronger than before. There were many merchants in the market who sold numerous things. Most of the things were looted from Azure Mountain. There were even people from other sects. Jiang Hao was wary. He saw that they were from different levels of cultivation. Some were still in the Foundation Estity 11 Tinment realm, some Ortnam were in TNE 601 and Core realm, Anaitners were in the Lifeblood Refinement realm. He didn't see anyone beyond the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao walked around for a while. He saw a stall at the side that he wanted to check. There were two men at the stall who seemed to be in their late 20s. As Jiang Hao approached, they smiled amiably. "Fellow disciple, want to take a look?" There weren't many things in the stall. There were only 3 magic treasures, a passable spirit sword, and a very ordinary shield for sale. None of these were worth any attention. However, a black blade caught Jiang Hao's eye. Judging from the material and craftsmanship, the blade seemed better than the half-moon blade he had used before. It was still usable for someone in the Foundation establishment realm. "How much is this saber?" asked Jiang Hao. He picked it up. "Ah, this is called the Black Fox. It is the work of a very famous master. It does not come cheap. However, for you, we can make it 3,000 spirit stones," one of the men, Li Fei, said in a whisper. Jiang Hao frowned. He didn't have that many spirit stones. The price was actually cheaper than what it would have cost in the Stellar Tower. In the Foundation establishment realm, this might be the best saber one could find. Jiang Hao wanted to buy it. Maybe he could add on some talismans with the spirit stones and make a deal. Jiang Hao thought about it. He had some healing talismans and 100,000 swords talismans. He also had some pills. That should be enough to make up for the shortage of spirit stones. "Fellow disciple, you're having difficulties in making up your mind? We are in a bit of a hurry, so we can reduce the price by another 500, said Hong Lai. The sudden drop in price made Li Fei unhappy, but he let it go. Jiang Hao felt that something was not right. Why were they in such a hurry to sell this thing? "You're lucky. This has been here a long time, and we want to get rid of it for new stocks." Jiang Hao nodded. He suggested using some of the talismans to make up for the shortage of spirit stones. Although the two men seemed hesitant, they agreed. In the end, Jiang Hao gave them 5 healing talismans and 1,200,000 swords talisman on top of 1,900 spirit stones. Li Fei smiled warmly. "Thank you, fellow disciple. Let me wrap it up for you." He picked up the sword, leaned down for a box, and handed it to Jiang Hao. "It's great doing business with you." Jiang Hao frowned. The weight wasn't right. He wanted to open the box to see if the sword was really there, but Li Fei put a hand on the box to stop him. "Fellow disciple, this transaction is over. You should leave now." Jiang Hao suddenly realized that he had been cheated. The saber wasn't inside the box, and the men were threatening him. They were both at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm. Jiang Hao nodded. "All right," he said and put the box away. Then, he left. Brotherly, the person seemed unnaturally calm. "Is he dangerous?" asked Hong Lai. He was walking around alone tore along Oenl. "I don't tn 111 knenas 0 dy else to ask for help," said Li Fei. "But we need to be careful anyway. We'll buy some resources to prevent him from coming after us. We can then modify our aura and disguise ourselves. The two men walked to a corner. When they appeared in the market again, they had turned into two women. No one could recognize them. Chapter 73, Chapter 73, Where is my saber? Chapter 73, Where is my saber? Before it got dark, the two women left the Heavenly Note Sect in a hurry. They had cheated a lot of people off their money. Two had been in the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and the other one had been in the middle stage of the same realm. The former two were from other sects, and the latter was from the Heavenly Note Sect. They were not afraid of the other sects, but the Heavenly Note Sect was a different matter. They collected their stuff and prepared to leave. "Will everything be okay?" asked the short-haired woman called Hong Lai. "It's been so long since that transaction," said Li Fei, a long-haired, voluptuous woman. "If anything was supposed to happen, it would have happened a long time ago. Even if they send someone after us, they won't recognize us. I mean, even someone in the Golden Core realm wouldn't be able to find us. That person seemed just too quiet to get involved in an altercation. There's no danger." "True, that person seemed unnaturally calm," said Hong Lai. "It felt like he had no choice but to endure it. But he was the richest among those that we met today." Hong Lai laughed. "He does seem talented at making talismans. It makes sense he would have tons of spirit stones." "Don't worry too much about it," said Li Fei. "He's only in the middle stage of Foundation establishment realm. By the time he advances to the late stage, we'll already be in the Golden Core realm. Our strengths will be miles apart. Don't let someone in the Foundation establishment realm." Just as Li Fei turned around, she stopped in her tracks. Hong Lai's face was covered in blood. She stared at Li Fei in terror. A blade flashed. Li Fei's arm was severed from her shoulder. "Who is it?" shouted Hong Lai in fear. A saber pierced through Hong Lai's torso. She spat out a mouthful of blood. "Please spare us. What do you want? We'll give you everything." "Where is my saber?" said a voice from behind. Hong Lai realized that it was Jiang Hao. They had succeeded in deceiving people numerous times. But this time, another knife slashed across her neck. "Don't trouble yourselves. I'll get it myself." Hong Lai felt the life drain out of her. She was so close to reaching the Golden Core realm. So close. After confirming that the two were dead, Jiang Hao took away anything that was valuable. The law enforcement hall did not investigate the death of disciples from other sects. So, Annie didn't need to clean up after himself this time. At night, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged on the bed in his room. He looked through the stuff he had snatched from the two people. There were some pills, talismans, and some magical array spells. He sighed. Only 300 spirit stones, 10 healing talismans, a few 100,000 talismans. Those scums spent it all on stupid pills. He needed to buy some pills too, but he had no use for these. They were all for the Foundation establishment realm. The only precious thing he had obtained was the black saber. He swung it around once and decided to use the name Half Moon Blade for the saber as well. He would need to buy another in the future anyway. It didn't matter what name was used. He put away the saber. He had also found a small iron dice with a face on each side. Is this what helped them change their appearance? He used the daily appraisal on the small iron dice. 6-sided dice, a lucky treasure. Every time you throw it, the treasure will absorb a portion of your luck. It'll give you a new face and identity every time. Very difficult to detect. Jiang Hao put the treasure away. It was a dangerous thing. If his luck was chipped away bit by bit, it would make his life unlivable at one point. The next day, Jiang Hao went to the courtyard to collect the bubbles. Lifeblood +1. The blue lotus and snow lotus gave off some bubbles. They also exuded a pleasant fragrance. With the heavenly fragrance Dao flower doing the same, his courtyard smelled very nice. The spirit beast was staring at the flower intently. Do you always stare at the flower every day? Of course. It's your flower, master. I need to guard it well. Jiang Hao knew that this spirit beast was full of lies. They headed to the spirit herb garden. Master, the woman that came to your house before, do you eat people with her? What? I don't eat humans. But last time, she said she ate people, said the spirit beast. Jiang Hao frowned. The beast might actually be right. Fairy Mingyi could prove to be even more dangerous than Yan Hua. Junior brother Jiang, I haven't seen you for quite a while. I heard that you went to the mine and was worried that something might have happened. Fairy Mingyi walked up to Jiang Hao with a smile. Chapter 74, Chapter 74, Appraising the Red Demoness. Chapter 74, Appraising the Red Demoness. I'm sorry for worrying you, said Jiang Hao. Everything turned out well in the end. Jiang Hao was peeved. Yan Hua had given him a lot of trouble. Mingyi was also from the same sect as Yan Hua. He knew that she was going to cause more trouble. She was from the Heavenly Sound Sect too. I know. I am glad to see that you're fine. I also heard of your contribution to the sect. You've done well. Mingyi smiled sweetly and handed him a potted plant. Junior brother Jiang, could you check this spirit herb? I feel that something is wrong with it. I bought this from you last time. Jiang Hao took the potted plant and looked at it carefully. This is time it should be full of vitality, but did you try to do something to it, senior sister Ming? Jiang Hao walked into the spirit herb garden. Some of the spawned bubbles flew to him. Ordinary spiritual sword +1. Jiang Hao set the potted plant down on a raised platform in the garden. A purple, 7-petaled flower was just in bloom. It didn't help much with cultivation, but it was a cheap spirit herb that was very fragrant. It helped a bit with focus and concentration. Mingyi hadn't bought it directly from Jiang Hao. She had given the order for it, and the spirit herb garden had provided it. I didn't really do anything special to it. It became like this. Fairy Mingyi couldn't really remember doing anything to the plant, except maybe watering it occasionally. It's fine. I'll take a look. He tried to scan the time with his spiritual energy to see what was wrong. Soon, he discovered that the roots of the time were damaged. It seemed to be caused by excessive spiritual energy channeled into it. Senior Sister Ming, do you have a blue lotus in your courtyard? Asked Jiang Hao. Yes, said Mingyi. How is that related to this? It's because of that blue lotus. Place them far away from each other. Both emit spiritual energy. So, when they clash, one of them is bound to have a problem. Jiang Hao proceeded to try to fix the plant. Junior brother Jiang, you've offended quite a lot of people recently, haven't you? Fairy Mingyi asked suddenly. Jiang Hao raised his head to look at her. He then turned back to the plant. Why do you say that, senior sister Ming? When I just came out of seclusion, I heard that you somehow provoked the Heavenly Joy Pavilion because of a traitor. It's not a small matter, said Fairy Mingyi. You have avoided it quite spectacularly. But I recently heard you are involved in some matters concerning the Heavenly Sound Sect. Jiang Hao looked at her blankly. You're not aware. When Yan Hua disappeared, her puppets showed some abnormalities. The Law Enforcement Hall investigated the matter and found out a lot about what Yan Hua was planning. I heard that she was from the Heavenly Sound Sect. There are rumors that people from the Heavenly Sound Sect have their eyes on you. It so happens that you were the last person Yan Hua was looking for before she disappeared from the world. Some think that Yan Hua betrayed the Heavenly Sound Sect and gave something important to you. I'm not sure if any of that is true, but you should be careful, junior brother Jiang. Jiang Hao was stunned by the news. This time he wasn't even pretending to be shocked. He wondered why the Heavenly Sound Sect assumed that Yan Hua might have betrayed them and sided with him. Is Mingyi just testing me right now? I know you have made such a big contribution in capturing Xian Yuantai of the Black Heaven Sect. However, I wonder why did Manlong let you have the credit for something that big? The Black Heaven Sect would obviously keep an eye on whoever helped capture one of their people. Jiang Hao was baffled. That made sense. No one had mentioned Manlong. Everyone thought he had fought Xian Yuantai single-handedly. Was he just being used as a shield to divert attention from Manlong? It seemed even the top 10 disciples had to worry about being targeted by other sects. After that, Fairy Mingyi turned to leave. Jiang Hao wanted to appraise her but was interrupted by the appearance of the Cliff Master. Jiang Hao was distracted. Even if Mingyi was just testing him, he couldn't ignore all of her words. I'll use the daily appraisal on her tomorrow. She'll be back to get her plant anyway. He had not only offended the Heavenly Joy Pavilion but also made an enemy out of the Sunset Immortal Sect and the Black Heaven Sect. He needed to avoid leaving the sect at any cost. As long as the law enforcement hall kept him on their suspect list, nobody could harm him inside the section. He now had to worry about traitors from the Black Heaven Sect who might have infiltrated the Heavenly Note Sect. Jiang Hao sighed. He still needed to figure out a way to not appear too conspicuous in the competition. His master told him that he would be given the opportunity to choose one of the rewards if he managed to win. Jiang Hao was only interested in the strange seed. He wanted to appraise it to see what other uses it had. In the evening, Jiang Hao returned to his house. He sat in the courtyard, deep in thought. The only way to be safe in this world was to become stronger, and he needed to do that as soon as possible. Jiang Hao picked up the hoe that he had placed on the side. He sighed. I really want to mine. A white thing crashed into the wall. Jiang Hao was startled. He realized that it was the spirit beast. It was unconscious. Its face was bruised and swollen. Jiang Hao looked in the direction of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. A figure dressed in red had suddenly materialized there. I see that you really miss mining. Hong Yuyi looked at Jiang Hao. I'm sorry, said Jiang Hao and bowed. He threw the hoe aside. I don't really miss it. I was just recalling the bitter moments I spent in the mine. I see you have not changed your lying nature. Hong Yuyi leaned down and touched the leaves of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. The flower is growing very quickly. Jiang Hao hesitated for a moment and then decided to appraise her. Chapter 75, Chapter 75, Exposed for using a divine ability. Chapter 75, Exposed for using a divine ability. This was the very first time that the daily appraisal had failed. This ability never let him down. He could find information about anything or anyone when he used the daily appraisal ability. However, when he activated the ability on the Demoness, all it gave him were question marks. Hong Yuyi. At least now he knew her name. Jiang Hao realized that he would need to break through the Golden Core realm and reach higher realms if he wanted to find out more about her. He did not know how long that would take. The only thing he could do was to keep trying to advance to greater cultivation realms. Are you using a divine ability on me? Hong Yuyi's voice made him jump in fright. You seem flustered. She stood up and turned away from the flower with a faint smile on her lips. And no, I wasn't. He didn't understand how she had discovered him using his ability. No one had been able to sense it before. Hong Yuyi smiled. Lying comes so easily to you. You have used your ability twice on me till now. Do you think I don't know that? Jiang Hao lowered his head and remained quiet. Did you finish reading the book I gave you? Only the first part, I've only had time to skim through the rest, said Jiang Hao truthfully. And here I thought you might have already read it all since you like hiding so much. Hong Yuyi shook her head. It is no wonder the way you use your ability is so crude. Anyone could sense it if they had half a brain. Jiang Hao was puzzled. What does she mean? Could abilities be hidden like one's cultivation? Do you still want to mine? Hong Yuyi asked suddenly. Jiang Hao shook his head. No, I want to stay here and take care of your flower. Yue walked to the corner of the courtyard and pulled out Jiang Hao's half-moon blade from the dirt. Always with the lies. She looked at the saber for a while and walked into the house. I hope you have tea. Jiang Hao took a deep breath and opened the pack of red azure tea. He brewed a pot of it and poured her a cup. He placed the cup of tea gingerly on the table. Yue lifted the cup to her lips and took a sip. She didn't say anything. Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief. How did you raise the spirit beast? Yue asked. I just feed it spirit stones, said Jiang Hao. Just that. Yue took another sip of tea. Jiang Hao hesitated. I tie it up and feed it? Yue stared at him for a while. What else can you raise? I'm not sure. He was telling the truth. If he could use daily appraisal on the plant or animal, he could figure out a way to nurture it. However, he wasn't sure what else he could raise in his home. Find something interesting to plant in your small garden, said Yue. Jiang Hao sighed. Where do I find something like that? The heavenly fragrance dao flower was the only interesting and rare item he had for now. If I like it, I'll take it with me. Yue looked at Jiang Hao. Do you have any objections? Jiang Hao was speechless. I guess not, said Yue and placed her cup on the table. He could sense her vast aura. I have no objections at all, said Jiang Hao hurriedly. Yue stood up and walked out. I won't make you work for nothing. When the time comes, I'll help you learn anything you want. Jiang Hao believed her. She had given him the nameless manual and the 7 forms of the heavenly blade, after all. Knowledge was invaluable. Oh, yeah, Yue turned to him. Prepare a better tea next time. I'll often visit to check on my flower. You do know what will happen if you anger me. I'll keep it in mind, said Jiang Hao. Yue then left. Ah, it hurts, yelled the spirit beast. What happened to my face? Jiang Hao checked its injuries to make sure the beast was all right. Then, he left it be. He knew Yue had attacked the beast till it fainted. She probably didn't want the beast to see her. Jiang Hao sighed. Where am I supposed to find a rare plant? He needed to go and check out the treasures that were to be used as rewards for the competition. He needed to see if the seed was worth it. Jiang Hao felt that a purple bubble would drastically change things for him. One more ability would really help him out. When he returned to his room, he realized that the half-moon blade was gone. He sighed. Why do you have to steal my blades, Yue? Jiang Hao felt calm after the Demoness was gone. There was such a huge difference in the way he felt when she wasn't there and when she appeared suddenly. He needed to get stronger too. He took out the nameless manual and began to read. This time, he decided to read the entire book. He wasn't in a hurry. From what Yue had said, he needed to read the entire thing. He read the whole night and only finished it in the morning. Jiang Hao was deep in thought as he gently closed the book. There isn't a section on divine abilities, but it does talk at length about special spells and energy consumption. If there was any description of rare abilities, he would have noticed it. If Yue hadn't told him to read it again, he wouldn't have noticed anything about special energy consumption. Divine abilities consumed energy, but all of them consumed it in different ways. There were generally 4 things in a body that could be consumed. They were spirit, stamina, cultivation, and lifeblood. These were all consumed in different ways and for different uses. As long as he knew what was consumed and in which activity, he could mask it from the world. Since all these things were related to the breath and spiritual energy, hiding them would greatly reduce the traces he left behind. The person who wrote this book must be a genius. There were so many things in the book that he couldn't understand. Jiang Hao realized that he was still lacking in knowledge. If he hadn't decided to use the daily appraisal on Mingyi today, he would have used that ability on the book. He wanted to know if this was written by Yue herself. If it was, he needed to be even more careful of her. After a while, Jiang Hao headed to the spirit herb garden with the battered and bruised spirit beast. He saw Mingyi just in time. Jiang Hao activated the daily appraisal ability. Chapter 76, Chapter 76, The Seed of the Immortal Peach Tree. Chapter 76, The Seed of the Immortal Peach Tree. Mingyi, Heavenly Sound Sect substitute saintess, in the early stage of the Golden Core realm, undercover in the Heavenly Note Sect. Wants to find out the reason for the rise of the Heavenly Note Sect. Yan Hua's disappearance has complicated the matter for the Heavenly Sound Sect. They believe Yan Hua found some secret in the mines and she fled. She thinks you are Yan Hua's accomplice. Has decided not to touch you for the time being. She wants to find out who ruined the plan and kill them first. Jiang Hao recalled what the daily appraisal had shown him before when he appraised Mingyi. Ruthless. Hides a knife behind her smile. He realized that the Heavenly Sound Sect was even more dangerous than he thought. The Heavenly Note Sect and the Heavenly Sound Sect were at odds. It was normal for the Heavenly Sound Sect to suspect foul play concerning Yan Hua's disappearance. It just surprised Jiang Hao that they saw him as a threat. Jiang Hao had admitted that he met Yan Hua before her disappearance because he wanted to stay on the law enforcement hall's suspect list. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mentioned it at all. Jiang Hao sighed. He seemed to make enemies everywhere. Fortunately, it seemed that the Heavenly Sound Sect was still unsure of Yan Hua's reason for the disappearance. For now, Jiang Hao wasn't their priority. Jiang Hao walked toward her. Senior Sister Ming, here is your plant. I think it should be fine now. Thank you, Junior Brother Jiang. If I encounter trouble again, I'll come and find you. I hope you don't mind. He realized that she was trying to get on his good side. Before, he would have fallen for it. He used to be naive and inexperienced. Ever since he had eaten the heaven extinction goo poison, yang goo, he felt unaffected by such things. Jiang Hao began to organize and check on the spirit herbs. He couldn't visit the mines, so he might as well do his job well in the spirit herb garden. If there was even a small chance of getting a bubble, he would willingly do any work. While Jiang Hao was busy, the spirit beast went around the garden and talked to the people. Everyone called the beast Lord Rabbit jokingly. Jiang Hao ignored it. It had been a month since Jiang Hao had returned from the mine. Other than the trouble he had encountered with those two merchants while buying a saber, everything had been okay. Cultivation, intermediate stage of Golden Core realm. Lifeblood, 18/100, can be cultivated. Cultivation, 22/100, can be cultivated. There was steady progress in his attributes. He had been studying the Nameless Manual diligently and appraising things at least once a day. He often appraised the spirit beast. There were no significant changes. He fed it spirit stones regularly. However, the beast was still in a state of shock after that day. The spirit beast didn't seem to be scared of him at all. There was someone else he was terrified of. The reason he kept appraising the spirit beast was to understand and learn the special consumption and the art of hiding it. After a few days of trying, he felt it. He understood what the Nameless Manual had been trying to tell him. He felt a slight consumption of his physical and mental strength when he used his ability. Jiang Hao was stunned. Hong Yue can even detect such a slight change. The consumption was so small that it was almost impossible to notice. If he could disguise his consumption, he could entirely hide the fact that he was using any ability at all. He wanted to test it on Hong Yue once again, but he was scared she'd blast him to hell. Jiang Hao made his way to the law enforcement hall. Yesterday, he had seen the rewards displayed in glass cases. Those had been for the Foundation establishment realm. Today, they were about to display the rewards for those in the Golden Core realm. Although he knew that he couldn't compete in the Golden Core realm category, Jiang Hao still wanted to see them. Jiang Hao stood in front of a display case that held the rewards for the Foundation Establishment Realm category. The first was the 9-Sun Saber. He felt that the reward wasn't anything great. He already had the Primordial Heavenly Blade. The second and third rewards were books on different techniques. He didn't care for them. The fourth reward, which was the Deist robe, wasn't something he wanted. He had no use for it. Finally, Jiang Hao saw a small box. The lid was open, and it revealed a black seed. It was the size of an egg and was covered in complicated patterns. He could sense faint spiritual energy from it. This is it. I wonder if it is important. If not, he would choose the 9-Sun Saber. He could still sell it if he didn't want to use it. Jiang Hao tried to conceal his consumption and then activated the daily appraisal. Although no one could detect it, he wanted to practice what he had learned. Immortality Peach Tree Seed, a seed of a peach tree that is about to lose its vitality. It is a seed nurtured from the core of the fruit of the ancient divine tree, the Immortality Peach Tree. It has a trace of the divine tree. After taking root, germinating, bearing fruit, and reincarnating 9 times, it will become a full-fledged divine tree. To save the seed, place it next to a divine item and nourish it for 7 days. Then, it needs to be surrounded by 99 spirit stones and watered every day. After 9 days, it will take root and sprout. Jiang Hao made up his mind. The seed looked important. He would try to obtain it somehow. The seed needed to be placed next to a divine item. It might have been almost impossible for others but not Jiang Hao. He had the heavenly fragrance Dao flower in his courtyard and the primordial heavenly sword. He could use either of those. Jiang Hao asked around and found out that the competition would start in a month. I need to know how well I have to do to be able to choose the rewards. He went to look for the Cliff Master. You need something? Asked Ku Wu Chang. Yes. I wanted to ask which rank I need to be to choose one of the rewards. Go on. What about the first reward? Jiang Hao asked. That's for the winner, said Ku Wu Chang. But if you win, you can choose any other reward too. What about the fifth reward? If you make it to the top 3, you can have your pick among the third, fourth, and fifth reward, said the Cliff Master. There are a total of 13 participants. If you win 3 rounds, it might be enough for you to make it to that rank. Chapter 77, Chapter 77, Wouldn't you win if you beat Jiang Hao? Chapter 77, Wouldn't you win if you beat Jiang Hao? There were 2 people from the Cliff of Broken Hearts who had made it to the top 10. Both people were from 2 different cultivation realms. That meant that the probability of someone winning from the Cliff of Broken Hearts was high. 4 finalists would be selected for the competition. If Jiang Hao could make it to the top 3, he could choose the seed. Most disciples found seeds useless because the benefits weren't worth it. Master, how do you think the rewards will be categorized? 9-Sun Saber, then the Deist robe, the spell technique might be at the 3rd place, then comes the cultivation technique, and finally the seed. The Heavenly Dawn spiritual technique is only at the 4th rank in the list of rewards. That surprised Jiang Hao. The 9-Sun Saber is obviously the most powerful one. The Deist robe can not only be used in the Foundation Establishment realm but also in the Golden Core and Primordial Spirit realm. Although the Heavenly Dawn spiritual technique is impressive, it's extremely difficult to learn, and far inferior in effect to the 9 Suns Flame spell technique. The seed, no one knows what attribute it has. So, it's placed as the last reward, said Ku Wu Chang. I had the seed examined. Its vitality is so low that it's useless. Maybe it'll be somewhat useful to those in the lifeblood refinement realm. It might be slightly useful to those in the Foundation Establishment realm but completely useless for some in the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao thanked the Cliff Master for his explanation. He asked his master for a new technique that he could learn before the competition. Other disciples would have to compete in a preliminary round to make it to the competition, but Jiang Hao was already in the sect's top 10 disciple list, so he could directly participate in the main competition. The cliff master, Ku Wu Chang, handed Jiang Hao some books. Learn this. It's called the Demonic Sound 1000 Miles. It uses the same basic form as the demonic sound / and is much easier to learn. Jiang Hao thanked him and left. He had to learn the demonic sound 1000 miles as soon as possible. With the movement technique, he could buy time and wait for his opponent to be defeated by other competitors. The next day, some disciples from the Cliff of Broken Hearts wanted to set up an arena for practice. Jiang Hao followed them. He was the only one assumed to be in the Foundation establishment realm. Others were in the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao wanted to go with them because he wanted to see how powerful they were, in case he had to fight them in the future. He followed the other disciples for a few days to the arena. He thought that these disciples, in the Golden Core realm, were not even trying their best. Jiang Hao could defeat them with a simple slash of the primordial heavenly blade, or by using the 2 forms of the 7 forms of the heavenly blade. Jiang Hao didn't try to fight them. It was better not to showcase his strength. When people got stronger, they were often led astray by their pride. He needed to keep calm. At night, Jiang Hao practiced the demonic sound 1000 miles technique and flitted past the forest at a great speed. There was a white shadow that sped past him. The white shadow was none other than Jiang Hao's spirit beast. It had become stronger and faster after breaking through to the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. It muttered about wanting a new collar every time Jiang Hao approached. He ignored the beast. Getting a new collar was too expensive, and he didn't have many spirit stones right now. After receiving many spirit stones from Mu Qi, Jiang Hao should have been rich. However, after everything that had come to pass, he was still as poor as ever. He had a lot of spirit herbs, but they didn't sell at a great price. He ended up giving most of it to the spirit beast instead. Well, that's that with the demonic sound 1000 miles. I guess I'll make more talismans. Jiang Hao wanted to make more 100,000 swords talismans. If the opponent was too strong, he could always use the talismans to deal with them. He practiced the first and second form of the heavenly blade while paying close attention to energy consumption. 3 weeks later, Han Ming came over to meet him. Senior brother Jiang, I'm looking forward to sparring with you in the competition. He said that and turned to leave. He was confident this time. Han Ming had defeated everyone in the preliminary round, even the disciples from the other branches. Jiang Hao sighed. A true disciple favored by the spirits of mountains and rivers, it's not impossible for him to advance very quickly. Jiang Hao sat in the courtyard and began to refine his saber. The black saber was similar to the primordial heavenly blade in length. Its weight was just right. The craftsmanship was indeed impressive. It was definitely the work of some famous master. Jiang Hao had practiced the first and second form of the 7 forms of heavenly blade, the demonic sound 1000 miles, and created 100,000 swords talismans. He felt that these were enough preparations to at least win 3rd place. However, he couldn't underestimate his opponents. They might have prepared a lot for the competition. The next day, Jiang Hao woke up and walked out to the courtyard to water the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. The spirit beast approached Jiang Hao. Master, why don't you want to take me along to the competition? Why should I? I could help. My speed is astonishing. When our opponent approached you, I could slash my claws at him and injure him. You can then win. I was thinking of leaving you in charge of the spirit herb garden in my absence, said Jiang Hao. All right. That'll do too, said the spirit beast happily. The competition was held in the central square of the Heavenly Note sect. There were many arenas there. There were 3 categories for the competition: the Foundation Establishment Round, the Golden Core Round, and the Primordial Spirit Round. Jiang Hao looked at the list for the Foundation Establishment Round. There were 13 people. Han Ming stood in the center. He was almost through with the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. As expected of a true disciple, he had advanced so fast. Jiang Hao scanned the list and found that he was supposed to fight against Xianyu of Thunder Fire Peak. The name was familiar. Jiang Hao had gone on a mission to the Devil's Den with her once. He didn't expect her to have advanced to the middle stage of Foundation Establishment Realm. He walked to the arena. Xianyu of Thunder Fire Peak looked at the name list with confidence. Although she had just advanced to the middle stage recently, she had benefited a lot from the fight against Azure Mountain. She had a red scale sword in her hand, a moonfrost robe draped on her body, and many talismans that she could use. She had everything she needed for this competition. Xianyu wanted to win the Heavenly Dawn spiritual technique. Junior sister Xian, with your recent experience in the fight, it might not be difficult for you to gain victory, said a senior. It was mostly luck, Xianyu said humbly. Soon, they saw the name list for the competition. Xianyu realized that her opponent was the Cliff of Broken Hearts Jiang Hao. Xianyu was in disbelief. Wasn't he in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm? How did he advance to the middle stage so soon? Xianyu almost lost all her confidence. However, a senior congratulated her. Jiang Hao? That's great, said a senior. Junior sister Xian, I heard that he just got lucky because of some fortuitous encounter. He has no real combat experience. You'll definitely win. The congratulatory voices rang in her ears and annoyed her. She gritted her teeth. She would still fight with all her might. The Heavenly Dawn spiritual technique was too precious for her. Chapter 78, Chapter 78, Victory decided with just one slash. Chapter 78, Victory decided with just one slash. In the arena, Jiang Hao waited quietly. There weren't many people in the audience. He wasn't a famous person, after all. Xianyu wasn't as well known either. People usually rushed to watch fights between those of higher realms. Jiang Hao was the same. He wouldn't waste his time watching fights between those in the lower realms, either. A woman approached him. Her hair was tied in a ponytail and her eyes were filled with determination. She seemed like she was going to fight to the death. He wouldn't have cared about the fight if it was any other time. However, he needed that seed. Senior sister Xian, it's been a while since I saw you here, said Jiang Hao. Junior brother Jiang, likewise. I didn't expect you to advance so quickly. Xianyu felt a little bitter. She had come to this fight feeling very confident in herself. She hadn't expected to meet someone that she least wanted to. In the Devil's Den, she had feared Jiang Hao. I was just lucky, said Jiang Hao humbly. Jiang Hao heard some people cheer for Xianyu. He didn't care. A senior in the Golden Core realm approached them with a notebook. State your name, please. Xianyu of Thunder Fire Peak. Jiang Hao of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Let's begin, said the senior. In an instant, Jiang Hao felt a spiritual sword flying toward him. He unsheathed his new half-moon blade and blocked the attack. There was no time to waste. His opponent continuously attacked him from all sides. Jiang Hao defended himself as best as he could. His opponent had no intention to stop. His slashes became even more frenzied. For a moment, Jiang Hao only tried to defend. He didn't have an opening to attack. He stayed where he was. His opponent didn't even let him move from the spot. There was a rumbling sound. Jiang Hao felt the fluctuation in the spiritual energy. He had learned to sense changes in spiritual energy from the Nameless Manual. It was a wonderful feeling to be in control. He just needed to wait till the opponent attacked because he knew the exact direction from where she would launch her attack. Jiang Hao was on his guard this whole time, but he could sense every attack before it landed. He dodged and blocked easily. However, Xianyu was already feeling the strain of keeping up with her attacks. She used all her strength. Not one of her attacks flustered Jiang Hao. She felt as though he was a monster. He didn't move an inch from the spot. He didn't even break a sweat. Jiang Hao just stood there blocking her attacks as it rained on him. Xianyu used the lightning sword technique and threw the sword at Jiang Hao's blade rose to block the attack. He used the demonic sound slash technique this time. There was a boom and dust flew everywhere. His saber cut through Xianyu's lightning sword and broke it in half. The blade flashed past, missing Xianyu's cheek by inches. The saber then fell on the floor with a clang. Xianyu looked terrified. She took a deep breath to calm herself and bowed to Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao bowed to her in return. "Thank you so much for letting me win, senior sister Xian." Xianyu gave him a bitter smile and turned around and left. The people who had supported Xianyu followed her. The senior from the Golden Core realm approached the arena. Jiang Hao of the Cliff of Broken Hearts wins. The senior glanced at him a few more times. He couldn't believe Jiang Hao's foundation was so strong. Jiang Hao bowed to his senior and left the arena. The next fight would be held in the afternoon. The top 4 competitors would be selected today. They would then fight tomorrow until there were only 3 left. The top 3 would then compete with each other the following day. Jiang Hao did some calculations and figured out that he still had to fight 3 more rounds. He couldn't make his win seem too obvious. Xianyu wasn't someone weak. Han Ming, too. After participating in the battle against Azure Mountain, he must be even stronger than before. After a while, Jiang Hao returned to the Spirit Herb Garden. Lifeblood +1 Spirit +1 Strength +1. Jiang Hao was happy when he felt the bubbles absorb into his body. Although the changes weren't very great, it was still something. His spirit was much stronger than those of the same rank. He would soon break through to the late stage of the Golden Core realm. After that, he began to take care of the spirit herbs. He cared for the spirit herbs because they were the reason for his growth. "Did you lose in the competition?" Cheng Zhou walked to Jiang Hao. "Ah no," he said. "Then, shouldn't you be resting right now and preparing for the afternoon?" asked Cheng Zhou. "No need." Cheng Zhou did not say anything further and got busy with the herbs nearby. Jiang Hao always treated the people well whenever they worked in the Spirit Herb Garden. They, in turn, hoped he would succeed in whatever he did. With a whoosh, the spirit beast darted to his side. "Master, I found something wrong in that corner of the garden." "Where?" asked Jiang Hao. The spirit beast led him to a corner. Jiang Hao examined the area. He found out that the nutrients in the soil were depleted, and it hadn't occurred naturally. Somebody had accelerated the growth of whatever had been planted there before. "Go and tell Cheng Zhou to find out what was planted in this area," said Jiang Hao to the spirit beast. If the spiritual herbs were left to grow on their own, they would absorb the nutrients but also replenish it by various means. While Cheng Zhou investigated the matter, Jiang Hao returned to the central square. He saw his name on the list for the next round. His opponent was Zhou Chan of White Moon Lake. Senior sister Zhou Chan. Jiang Hao found it hard to believe. If she had made it to the second round, then it meant she was very strong. She was actually in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. When he walked to the arena, he saw that Zhou Chan had already arrived. "Junior brother Jiang, it really is you. I thought it was someone else with the same name. When we last met, you were just in the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Now, look at you. You're already in the middle stage." Zhou Chan smiled warmly at him. Jiang Hao gave her a friendly smile in return. "I was just lucky to advance quickly. You're so amazing, senior sister Zhou. I did hear rumors of White Moon Lake being full of geniuses. It seems the rumors are true, after all." Zhou Chan smiled. "The rumors aren't true at all. There are very few people from the White Moon Lake in this competition. I'm the only one from that branch who's in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Ah, is that so? Names, please, said the Golden Core Realm Senior once again. Part 4 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.